Greetings, welcome back to Addicted to Geography. Mr. Hardy is here. Today's video we're going to learn about coral reefs. Now, coral reefs are some of the most diverse and important ecosystems on the planet. They cover less than 1% of the ocean floor, but are home to over 25% of all marine life. Coral reefs are found in tropical waters around the world, from the Pacific and Indian Oceans to the Caribbean and even the Red Sea. A coral reef is an offshore ridge which is composed mainly of calcium carbonate. I'm going to say that again because definitely CXC wants you to have a working definition of a coral reef. So, a coral reef is an offshore ridge which is composed mainly of calcium carbonate. It is formed from the secretions of small marine animals known as coral polyps. See one on the screen there? Looks strange, don't it? Yes, a coral polyp is a tiny marine animal and it thrives in shallow, warm, nutrient-poor tropical waters. Now, these tiny animals attach themselves to objects such as rocks or existing reefs and build tiny shells made out of calcium carbonate. Where have you heard that word before? Calcium carbonate, calcium carbonate, limestone. You remember limestone is made up of calcium carbonate. So there's a relationship between limestone rock and how the coral reefs actually look or how they actually are structured. These coral polyps, they sit in these shells and they use their tiny tentacles to catch food. When these coral polyps die, new coral polyps might build up on the shells of the old coral polyp shells. And in this way, the reefs get to expand and get bigger and bigger over time. So it's like forming on top of the surface of the old generation and then the new generation, and that's how the coral reefs get to expand. Now, the coral reef is made up of millions of these polyps, and these polyps, they operate in such a way that they use the seawater and they are able to extract the calcium carbonate from it, and then they secrete it around their body, and it makes a hard exoskeleton around them. So remember, calcium carbonate is limestone rock. So if they are secreting calcium carbonate and this is hardening around the bodies of the coral polyps, then their bodies, their exoskeleton, their outer skeleton is as hard as limestone rock. Now, these polyps are about a few millimeters in size, and as I said before, they use their tentacles to catch food. Coral reefs have what is called a mutualistic relationship. And I'm sure you know what mutualism is, parasitism and symbolism, not symbolism, symbiosis, and all those other biological terms that I don't remember. They have a mutualistic relationship. Now, the coral reef contains tiny things which are known as zooxanthellae. I'm going to put it on the screen. Zooxanthellae. Now, these tinier creatures live in the tissues of the coral. The coral provides the zooxanthellae with a protected environment and the compounds that they need for photosynthesis. And in return, the zooxanthellae from photosynthesis, they produce oxygen and they help the coral to remove waste. The zooxanthellae supply the coral with glucose, glycerol, amino acids, all of these which are the results of photosynthesis, while the coral uses these products to make proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and of course calcium carbonate. And this drives the growth and development of the coral reef. Due to pollution, or if the water gets dirty and murky, sometimes the coral become physically stressed, and the polyps, they expel the zooxanthellae, and once it expels the zooxanthellae, then it starts to get a white appearance. Anybody knows what this is called? Of course, you might know. Yes, it's called coral bleaching. Yeah, getting a white appearance. You get that? Yeah, getting a white appearance. So it's called coral bleaching. So if the polyps go for too long without zooxanthellae, coral bleaching results. And if it goes for an extended period, then the coral is going to die. Now, coral reefs are not just beautiful to look at, they are also incredibly important for our planet, as they provide a habitat for countless species of fish, crab, and other marine animals. They also help to protect our coastlines from storms that may cause a lot of erosion, wave erosion. So the coral reefs, remember, it's an offshore ridge, and it blocks some of the strength and the potency of the storms, the waves that would normally come and erode the coastline. So the corals are the first line out there that protects the beaches, the coastline from violent storms. And of course, they are a source of food and income for many people, because many people catch fish, many people catch lobsters. The fishermen, they make a living from that. Now, unfortunately, coral reefs are under threat from a variety of human activities. Pollution from agriculture, industry, overfishing, climate change. These are all contributing to the decline of coral reefs around the world. Now, our syllabus requires us to study the types of coral reefs. So, not just looking at how beautiful it is and knowing how to describe it and what it does, but you need to know that there are different types of coral reefs. There are fringing reefs, barrier reefs, and atolls. Now, fringing reef, this is the first type that is normally introduced. This is a type of reef that forms along the shoreline in many tropical areas. The fringing reef, one of the main differences between it and the barrier reef is that the coral reef forms close to the shore. There is actually a shallow lagoon that is between the reef and the shore. Now, many Caribbean islands have fringing reefs, for example, Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica, St. Lucia, Barbados, Antigua. All of these places have fringing reefs. The second type is called the barrier reef. Now, this type of reef may be several kilometers from the shore. So remember I said the main difference between the fringing and the barrier is the distance from shore. So basically, both of them are offshore ridges of calcium carbonate, but there is a deeper lagoon for the barrier reef. So originally, the barrier reef began or started off as a fringing reef, but as sea levels rise, the low-lying areas near the coast become submerged, and as the shoreline moves back, the distance between the reef and the shore increases. And if the reef continues to grow upwards, keeping up with the rising sea level, it becomes a barrier reef. For example, the world's largest barrier reef, and that is known as the Great Barrier Reef, and it is found off the coast of Australia. And this barrier reef stretches for about 2,600 kilometers, and it is made up of many individual reefs and about 900 islands. The world's largest barrier reef is found off the coast of Australia. But did you know that the second largest barrier reef is found in the Caribbean? Yes, it is found off the coast of Belize, and it is known as the Belize Barrier Reef, and it's just about 300 kilometers long. So, two types of reefs so far, fringing and the barrier reef. Now, the type of reef that most students remember the most is atoll. Yes, that is atoll. Now, the atoll is a ring-shaped coral reef or a series of islets. Now, this type of reef is found mostly in the Pacific Ocean, and there are about 4 known atolls in the Caribbean Sea, and pretty much 3 of them are found off the coast of Belize. It is thought that the atoll started off as a regular type of reef around a feature such as an undersea volcano, which rose and became a volcanic island. This fringing reef that is formed around the volcano over millions of years, the island may sink back or submerge into the sea or disappear completely, and the fringing reef that is left, so no longer it is formed around the volcanic feature or the mountain feature that is there. Once that central feature disappears over millions of years, then what is left behind is the ring, the offshore ridge of calcium carbonate, and that is known as an atoll. So let me say it again. It's a ring-shaped coral reef that is formed around usually a volcanic island. Now this volcanic island may recede, submerge, disappear completely into the ocean, and it leaves behind the ring-shaped coral and also the shallow body of water, which we know as a lagoon. So that is the atoll, and it is the one that the students, you students normally remember that one best, and you're able to draw it with a fair amount of ease. Tourists are not really supposed to be touching the coral. You understand? They're supposed to be leaving the coral alone. Just enjoy the beauty, and just not cause any problems. But guess what? We as humans are sometimes selfish. We want souvenirs. We want a little piece of paradise to carry back home and have it as a trophy in our house. So sometimes the tourists often break off pieces of the coral or the pretty coral, and they sneak it out, back to their country. And guess what happens sometimes? They think that the coral that they break off is going to be as pretty as it was in the sea, but the coral is alive. It feels like rock, but it is alive. So when you break off a piece of it, eventually that piece of coral might die, and the zooxanthellae that were living in it and giving it its natural color, because that's also I don't think I remembered to say it. The zooxanthellae also helps to give the different colors that the coral might have, but that the beautiful colors that are exhibited in the coral reef is usually from the zooxanthellae. So when you break off the coral and thinking that it's going to be as pretty, when you get back home, it's all white and bleached out, and you have taken off a piece of paradise for nothing. Yeah, selfish. That we are, or the negative effects of mankind on coral reefs is that we are polluting our waters. We are releasing all type of sewage into the water. Some ships are coming into the waters and releasing their bilge. They're releasing oil, and of course sometimes farmers are releasing waters from their fields that may contain pesticides, insecticides, or the water just may be really dirty coming from the farm, and the rivers carry it to the sea, then these sewage particles provide too much nutrients or too many nutrients to the water. I believe that process is called eutrophication, or I will check on my pronunciation. Over the years, students have told me that I always pronounce that word wrong, but it's here on the screen right now. Now this makes the seawater very nutrient rich, and when the seawater is nutrient rich, that encourages the growth of algae. Now you might say, what can be wrong if algae grows too much or is fed by this sewage or this nutrient? Well, guess what? When there is an algal bloom, or when algae starts to bloom all over the water, it spreads across the surface, it spreads across the water, and therefore it blocks out the sunlight. And as you know, the coral reef requires sunlight for its growth. So remember, the coral reef and the zooxanthellae together, they perform photosynthesis, and if there is no sunshine getting through the waters, then there is no photosynthesis, no food is made, and the coral is going to die. So if too many nutrients get into the water, then it can cause algae to bloom up, and the algae is going to rob the coral reef of its sunlight. This also happens when too much dirt gets into the water or too many sediments get into the water. The same reason, it makes the water murky, blocks the sunlight, and interrupts the photosynthesis. And this is going to lead to the death of the coral. Now, how does sediment get into the water? Soil erosion, bad farming practices, or most recently what is happening is that sometimes the level of the sea area needs to be dredged. So dredging requires like a ship with a huge shovel behind it, and it digs up the sea floor. Now you cannot have a big machine plowing up the sea floor without causing dirt to be stirred up, and the sediment stirs up and makes the water dirty and murky. And as I said before, once the sunlight is blocked, then it interrupts photosynthesis, and that might cause the death of coral reef. Of course, we as humans, we love to do shortcut. I hope everybody understands what I mean by that. We like to cut corners. So sometimes if the fishing process, have you ever watched a fishing video or a fishing documentary or the fishing channel? Yeah, these guys can be out in their boats for hours just waiting on a fish to bite. So sometimes the fishing process is tedious, sometimes it is boring, sometimes it is slow, and many people want to cut corners. They want to hurry up the thing, they want instant gratification. The money not coming in fast enough, so they try to speed up the process. So sometimes fishermen practice destructive methods. So one of these destructive methods that is banned, even though fishermen still do it, is they throw dynamite in the water or any sort of explosive in the water. And once this explosion takes place in the water, then any fish in the area is going to suffer from the blast, and you see the fish floating up to the surface. And of course, if it's going to be blasting in the water, then it's going to damage the coral reef. You understand? So throwing dynamite in the water will definitely destroy the coral in the area. Sometimes these fishermen, they throw down their boat anchor, and this anchor can attach or get hitched into the coral reef, and it breaks off the coral. And once the coral breaks off, then that's the death of it right there. Now, fish sometimes help to reduce the amount of algae. So sometimes fishing helps the coral to to grow or to flourish, because if there's too much algae, then it might, choke and cloud up the coral reef. However, the opposite also can also cause problem. If you overfish, then you are taking away these fish that would normally eat some of the algae or eat these sea creatures which keep the coral reef clean. Now you are taking away by overfishing, then the algae is going to bloom up again, flourish, and overrun the coral area. So overfishing can lead to taking away the natural predators of the algae, and therefore the algae starts to outcompete the coral. Now, coral reefs are not just beautiful to look at, they are also incredibly important for our planet, as they provide a habitat for countless species of fish, crab, and other marine animals. They also help to protect our coastlines from storms that may cause a lot of erosion, wave erosion. So the coral reefs, remember, it's an offshore ridge, and it blocks some of the strength and the potency of the storms, like the waves that would normally come and erode the coastline. So the corals are the first line out there that protects the beaches, the coastline from violent storms. And of course, they are a source of food and income for many people, because many people catch fish, many people catch lobsters. The fishermen, they make a living from that. Many tourists come to our islands to experience the beauty and the wonder of these ecosystems that exist under the ocean or under the sea. And that is one of the reasons the tourists come here. So many tourists visit our tropical area hoping to observe and enjoy the beauty of the coral reef and also the creatures that live there. So the coral reef is important for tourism. Alright, so as I said, I did not want to make this video excessively long, so we're going to be wrapping up here. You that are learning about coral reefs and the benefits of coral reefs to our environment, you are the future for the coral reef, and you, along with other organizations, and you may even become a part of the government in the future, and you help to protect and restore coral reefs by spreading the word. Education is one of the greatest key. Reduce pollution. Many persons are now knowledgeable of the ways that we can harm coral, and we can take action to prevent the destructive practices to these vital ecosystems, and we can ensure that coral reefs continue to thrive for many generations to come. So this has been a quick synopsis on coral reefs. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you learned a lot, and I hope it helped you to get a better understanding of these amazing ecosystems and the potential challenges that they face. So please join us in supporting efforts to protect and conserve the coral reefs around the world. This has been Mr. Henry for Addicted to Geography. Join us in the next video where we will discuss another fascinating geography topic. Peace.